Hello Sofa Squad. Today we're going to be talking about the Daybell debacle. Now y'all, I was going to include this originally in my like true crime dishing time weekly little thing, but so much stuff kept happening. I was like, but just make another video on the whole thing, okay, on this whole hot mess. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kind of just go over the beginning, the charges, the probable cause, what people said, all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about some of the parts that jumped out to me because literally, y'all, this information that is coming out, it's not that it's shocking because it's stuff that we kind of knew, but seeing the depth of how many people are involved and are still walking around for free is shocking to me. So anyways, before we get started, thank you to all the people who make this channel possible, the mods, the Patreons, the channel members, people who like to comment, like, subscribe, share the videos. I wouldn't be here without you, and I really appreciate it. If you want to see more of me, check out my movie review channel. I'll put it up right here. You can see me do story times on scary films and stuff like that. If you want to see more of me dishing on even more stuff, ranging from story times, absurd criminals, and topics too hot to dish on this channel, consider becoming a channel member or a Patreon. Now on that note, let's go ahead and get to dishing on this video. As we know now, Lori Daybell has been charged with another crime. This is in relation to Charles Vallow, and this is conspiracy to commit murder. Now we're coming up in the anniversary of this event. It was July 11th, 2019. And remember, when this went down, this was originally kind of like a self-defense type situation. We all saw the video right after that taking place of Lori laughing and giggling. None of it ever set right, and I myself have been here. How did she get away with that? How did they get away with it this time? Why wasn't this done? Well, finally this is coming down the pipeline, and thank God for Charles and his family members and people who love him and care for him, that we are starting to see the wheels of justice turn in his favor. So like I said earlier, when they released these probable cause documents, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, my mouth is on the damn floor because I'm reading this, and some of it you can kind of tell who they're talking about because the names and whatnot and information is redacted. You can tell who they're talking about, and when you see all this pieced together for something that seems so kind of like murky when it first happened, and especially that was written off as self-defense, and then you see how many people were involved, how many people clearly knew way more than they are alleging that they do, and we're clearly way more involved in this, and I'm honestly waiting for charges to come down for all of them. As a matter of fact, I think we could damn near rename the probable cause, like call it a non-fiction story and title it Lock 'Em All Up, because that's how I felt after I read this. Now this report goes over some stuff that, you know, we've kind of seen before and whatnot. One overall note that really stuck out to me about this is when the police or the investigators who wrote the report was like talking about these light and dark scales, zombie or not zombie, all that. And they're like, you know, coincidentally, if you went along with their beliefs, you were favored like in their little point system. But then oddly, if you didn't go along with their belief system, you were considered possessed. And I'm just like, huh, that's convenient. First damn things first, y'all, we've got to talk about Zulema. Now here's the thing with this, y'all. When I read some of the stuff that I want to go over, like these text messages, again, if you've been following this, we can surmise that these are between Zulema, but technically they are redacted. So I'm just gonna say, like, you know, somebody. So after Alex passed, text messages were discovered between Lori and Zulema. Okay, so first things first, remember the stuff that we saw, like, and listened to the audio recordings, the police cam, stuff like that, when all that went down, and she was like so shady about that whole thing, and like she's like, oh, weird, like I won't, like, you can't search, you can't do that, all that kind of stuff. Y'all, this is why, okay, this is why, because remember, that didn't sit right with me, and for most people out there, they're like, why, you know, your husband, you know, of what, a few days, has just passed, and you're more concerned about, you know, all this stuff about, you know, searches and this and that and da. Okay, you know, well, of course she was, because she was knee deep in this BS. So this exchange of text messages goes along these lines. November 3rd, 2018, someone texted Lori saying she was told by God that she is to protect her. January 2019, someone told Lori she had a vision that she could create storms and fire and will have the eye of the Lord. A month later, Lori texted a person saying Charles was blocking her gifts. Now these text messages will go back and forth between someone and Lori, and they're talking about going to the temple and doing some spiritual work, and you can just tell, when you look into this case and you start seeing how much they used religion to act as the agency to get what they wanted to. And so with this stuff right here where it's like, oh, I'm going to protect you. Yeah, you are, but your gifts are being blocked. And all of this BS. And that's exactly what it was. So this is where I'm seeing where I'm like, oh, whoa, Zulema was like way more involved in this. She knew what was coming down the pipeline. I am waiting to see more charges against other people come up in this stuff. But let's keep going. Okay, let's talk about like another little dynamic of this. And of course it's about money because that's all Lori was about. But this is about the Social Security disability benefits. And this is another one that I was like, whoa. So Lori was looking into the Social Security disability benefits before all this went down with Charles. So it looks like she went to the Social Security site's webpage, their application, whatever, and did an application to see how much she would get. Now she confirmed this amount with Chad Daybell later on. And so once this all came to light that, oh my God, I'm not going to get that money, it was like, well, I'm still getting the $4,000, in the Social Security benefit stuff. So there was that. And when you look at the timeline that's in there, in total side note, if I haven't already said it before, I'm going to link links down to where you can read this whole thing at if you haven't already, so you can read through it. I'm just going over the parts that jump out to me. So, there's that with the whole Social Security thing. So clearly from there, it's like, okay, more planning, more plotting. And again, you start tying these other players into it with this whole little weaved web of deceit and lies and just tumultuous stuff. And you see how so many people were helping to make this come together and happen. Now this next part is something that I feel like completely accelerated these tragic events to happen, but it also then showed me like, whoa, even Lori's family, and like, can we possibly get some charges for them? So just a couple of days before this went down with Charles, Lori discovered that there was this whole intervention thing going to take place with Charles and her other brother Adam. And so she discovers this is going to happen. And so first of all, just that right there, because with Charles, you can tell how much he wanted to, help Lori, how much he loved her, how much he wanted this to work. And when you see that it's like, okay, he's going to these lengths to make this happen, yet at the same note, she has this, other brother, Alex, who is helping to just, destroy all of this and other people's lives. It makes no sense to me, but now piecing this all together, it does make more sense, but obviously in a tragic way. So one of the big things going down with this is Charles was basically like, look, you need to come clean about this whole thing with Chad. Remember, he had found that letter that she forged saying like, oh, I want you to come help me write this book, pretending to be Charles, and when she wrote that. So this is all coming to an head. So you can call it religious, you can say, oh, he's gone dark, he's gone this and that. She was getting ready to be found out because Charles was going to tell Tammy Daybell what was going on. So their whole little kingdom come was getting ready to be destroyed. Now here's the other part that gets me. All in the mix of this is Lori's own mother and sister helping along with this, facilitating this. Do we need to prevent this from happening? This is where so-and-so is at. And that's where I'm like, what? I never trusted those two. I'm sorry I didn't. And I can understand that, most parents, most siblings are going to take up for their sibling in some way. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's normal. But this kind of stuff, I'm like, well, what? Accompanied with, because let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a second. And let's say they didn't know about all this crazy stuff. Let's say Lori completely had them snowballed. When it all went down, and it was very obvious to so many different people what was going on. And remember, when all this is popping off, we didn't really know all the stuff we know now, obviously. I go back to the interviews with Summer and her mother and Lori's mother, and I'm like, so hold on. Y'all did all this stuff that we're learning in this probable cause, and you're sitting up there with this snooty little attitude. No, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I think they know. I think they knew a lot more about what was going on. Period. Point blank. End of damn story. So even when Charles shows up and he sends a text message out to someone, and they're like, "Look, they're planning something," meaning like Alex and Lori and them. And he's like, absolutely. And then he's dead a little bit later. I mean, come on, do the math on this. Look at how many people had to come together for that. Now, on that note, the timeline of that day is also completely shocking. And this is where I'm starting to be more like, oh, okay. So remember, we've seen the videos of this. Alex comes out. He has that little minute thing in the back of his head, and he's trying to say that, Charles was coming after him with a baseball bat. I'm like, honey, you would be dead right now. But there's the things that jump out to me in this probable cause about those two things. First of all, the bullets. One of the bullets, there's two. They said one of them makes sense with what Alex said. I shot him in the chest. He was coming towards me. The other one, they said, was made while Charles was already in the ground. Obviously, you don't need to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, the threat's over. He's down one. He's on the ground. You don't need to do that again unless you wanted to make sure he wasn't coming back. Even more so and worse than that is the timing of the 911 phone calls. We learn in this probable cause that basically Alex waited about 45 minutes after the incident occurred. And now I can remember when we all heard this audio of that, and all of us were like, he's not even trying to do that. This is not happening. There's something off with this, because remember, the 911 caller, the person on the other end of the phone, was like walking him how to do CPR, and he was pretending to do it. Well, when the responders showed up and they started actually doing it, and they're like, blood started coming out, and they're like, so this told us that he hadn't already done that, because there should have been a lot of blood everywhere, and there wasn't. So they theorized that he laid there, he meaning Charles, for about 45 minutes dying. Can you imagine? Even worse. Even on top of that, they say that Lori then went out and got Burger King for JJ, some flip-flops for her and Tylee. And then that's when we see her sauntering back, laughing and joking with the cops. And so now when you paint this whole picture and you see everything, the tip of the iceberg, that what we saw was Lori laughing and acting that way, which was bizarre. Now we see everything underneath to how pre-planned and plotted this was, and how many different people were involved in it that led up to that moment. Now, more salt in the damn wound was the text message that Chad sent to Lori after the event took place, and here's what he had to say. I got the inspiration to go back to my original death percentages that helped us track Charles, Ned, etc. Tammy is very close. Her percentage has fallen steadily since Hiplos left. It is very encouraging. Now, he also signed that with a heart and lips emoji, and I'm just like, don't ever let that man get out. Don't ever let that man get out. This is such BS. The denial that these people are in, because here's my thing, what we're starting to see more. This is all about money, y'all. This is all about money, and they hid behind the religious BS to maybe feel better about it. Lori, I have never seen another human being project, well, I have, but this one's just shocking because of how just criminal it is. But Lori projects everything that she does onto others. That's why she's accusing Charles of infidelity. I mean, everything. It's like, honey, look in the mirror and take accountability and accept the fact that she's an evil person. So other family members have come out and spoken out recently, and we'll start with Charles Vallow. Now, this is Charles's other brother. Y'all, I felt like, I could totally hang out with this man. I love the way he talked. He was dropping F-bombs. He just spoke like we would speak here on the damn sofa, And so I really enjoyed the things he had to say. And he did say he spoke very highly of his brother, and he was like, Charles was a wonderful man. He really cared for Lori. Now, Jerry was up there with his wife, Melanie, and I'm just like, why, I mean, nothing against her, but I'm just like, not another Melanie. I can't keep them all straight. Melanie also spoke very highly of her brother-in-law. And, she said, you know what? I mean, before this all got crazy, we knew some stuff was going on. Not obviously anything like that. But when she talked about the whole aspect of, he really wanted to get back with her, even though we were kind of like, maybe this isn't the best woman for you. but it is what it is. Now, when asked about the competency hearing, it's so interesting because he said the same thing we do. He was like, you know what? She knows exactly what she's doing. And in fact, he said that B knew exactly what she was doing, and I totally agree. She's not crazy. She knew exactly what she was doing. She's hiding behind this religious doctrine to facilitate her greedy, lustful crimes. And Jerry said, you know what? I just want to sit down and look her in the eyes and tell her, you're not some goddess. You're not some incarnated, person. What the hell were you thinking? And I don't blame him. I'm sure he has tons of questions, and I'm sure there's many emotions that would go with having to see someone take out your family member like this, and in just such an absurd and ridiculous manner. Now, also speaking out and doing an interview is Charles Vallow's former attorney, who was working with him on divorce stuff, all of this, the crazy family stuff that went on with Lori. And he said, you know what? It's really nice to start seeing Charles get some validation and justice coming his way in his name. Now, it was interesting because they asked him, like, what do you think about how long it took and about it being called self-defense at first? And he was like, you know what? I mean, this is what I do for a living. He said, I know how slow the court systems and the wheels of justice turn are. He said they had to make sure that they had all the right stuff to get the charges because clearly something was not right. But it's one of those things where you just can't rush it. You have to get everything lined up to get, a conviction. Now, he also said something that was very interesting. He said, look, you know what? Charles described Lori very charming, very witty, very loving. And he said Charles was very adamant. He was like, this Lori we're dealing with is not the woman I got with 14 years ago. Period. End of damn story. It's a totally different person. The lawyer also did say he too thinks that the real intent behind all of this was money. Point blank, end of story, money, money, money. And I agree. I mean, the more we see here, I should say this. I think for Chad and Lori and those people, it was about money. I think some other people involved, it was about maybe money in some situations, but they might have been a little bit more gullible. But regardless, all of these people who sat by and helped this happen and helped facilitate it, and now they're all wanting to run to give interviews as fast as they can and do all this stuff, like that's going to buy them, some moral compass or something. Absolutely disgusting. I hope they're all charged, and I hope they all never see the light of day again, to be quite honest. I hope they're able to get enough evidence without offering deals to some of these monsters, because any human being that could let this stuff go on and not put a stop to it and see this stuff clearly unfolding has no right to be walking free, while these poor families and these victims no longer have that right. End of damn story. End of damn video. Now, y'all, just want to give a shout out again and a thank you to all the mods, the Patreons, the channel members, and everyone who makes the channel possible. Thank you very much. I couldn't be here without you. Thank you for keeping this case going, keeping the victims' families' names and all that out there. This is a tragedy. These people that did this to them, and including ones that just sat by and didn't say anything and allowed the stuff to go on, they're monsters, and I'm sorry that they ever crossed paths with these other decent people who are no longer here or whose lives have been forever tainted because of these people. So that's it. I hope everybody's well out there, and until next time, I'll see you then.